How is it going, guys? Welcome to the channel today. How's it going, everyone? I hope you're all doing good wherever you may or may not be. Whether you're here in the United States, good morning. If you're across the seas in another country, it may be good night for you. Who knows? But I figured today, and bear with me on this, because I know you've seen a lot of these videos around YouTube, and yes, I know I'm getting to one now, and you're probably all like, yay. But today we're going to discuss the do's and don'ts of reptile pets. And what I mean by that is what reptile pets that I think are great, like in an economic standpoint, and also social standpoint, and just care, versus which ones I say are not. And believe me, I do have quite a bit of reptiles that probably aren't the best for beginners, but I am not a beginner, so don't hold that against me. And again, guys, this is all opinion, my opinion. If you disagree with it or you think I'm wrong in some statement, feel free to nicely put it in the comments. We don't need a full-blown war in the comments, guys, but feel free to comment. Like I said, this is my opinion. Everyone has their own opinions, but we're going to go through first some of the reptiles I think are great pets as far as cheapness, care level, and just attitude, honestly. And I figured we'd start it off with, vast majority of people's top lizard. But we're going to start off with the beardy here, Miss Oddball. Hi, Oddie. You got fed yesterday, don't even try it. Now, as you can see, she has a very bare minimum setup, but that is because of vet recommendations for her. She is a special needs bearded dragon. What you guys may not know is she actually has a mental neurological issue that causes her to not have a sense of balance, so I have to keep her cage very minimum and bare so that way she doesn't climb on it and fall. If you're seeing the blueness on her chin, that's because she ate some blueberries yesterday. This is not food. Don't eat the camera. Don't do it. So, the reason I start off with this one, guys, is because, hey, quit eating the camera. Because a lot of times, hey, stop eating the camera. You probably just got your spit. Yeah, you got your spit on it. Beardies, guys, are actually they're very easy to find in pet stores. Everyone carries them. They're actually decently priced. The more exotic breeds you get into, the more expensive they get, but they're actually very decently priced. They don't require humidity that much because they are a desert dweller, so care level as far as these guys goes is pretty simple because they don't need to be humid to be happy. That being said, sometimes I've heard of people keeping a little hide for them that has sphagnum moss wetted down so they have a little bit of human hide. I do that occasionally, especially when she's shedding. You can't eat the camera. But these guys are very easy to care for. They're actually very good social pets. They tame up very nicely, very easily. They're very sweet, as you can see. She's just acting crazy right now because she thinks she's getting fed, even though she got fed yesterday. Believe it or not, guys, she got fed yesterday, so don't let her fool you. She's just crazy. But, they actually, like I said, guys, beardies are a very great starter reptile. They're very simple to care for. They can be very sweet. It's a good way to step into caring for reptiles and exotics, is with beardies. Now, let's go ahead and move on to another one that I think is another great starting reptile. Very cheap, but a little bit more care is required. And that would be water dragons, guys. Now, water dragons, very cheap. I mean, one water dragon's only $30, guys. The cage is, and with all reptiles, guys, the cage is what you're going to be paying for. It gets expensive. Now, these guys, the reason I say these guys are good reptiles to start off with and good reptiles to keep is because once you get them set up, they are very simple to care for. Very simple to care for. And they're, as you can see, they are very sweet. I've never seen, honestly, a super aggressive water dragon. I have seen a temperamental bearded dragon. But as far as water dragons go, everyone I've ever met has been a sweetheart, as you can see with these guys. Now, the reason these guys, I say, require a little bit more care is they're tropical, so they do require a humid environment. Another thing is they love water, aka the name water dragons. So expect them to make a mess. And also, don't expect to be able to set up very easily a bioactive setup for them. I am trying, but they like to destroy plants a lot, so it can be very difficult to set up. But as with bearded dragons too, guys, they stay relatively decent size. They don't get ginormous. So, like, you know, you can get a pretty large aquarium and they'd be set for life. As you can see with these guys, you got a little bit of roach on your face. They do like vertical spaces because they love to climb. So keep that in mind too when you're raising them and keeping them. And for anyone who thinks that I'm keeping them wrong, I do want to point out that I do get babies every year from these guys, twice a year, because they are very happy. And that being said, most animals won't breed, especially reptiles, if they aren't content and happy. So, and I do provide nesting boxes, guys, so don't worry about if that you think that's not enough dirt down there. I do provide a nesting box up here and scattered around for them, so they have options. But great starter pet, guys. They're very social, very, as you can see, love to interact with you, love to be around you. You're gonna have to get off, buddy. They are very, very wonderful lizards. What I would recommend, what I would honestly suggest being one of a great starters. Just because they stay decently sized, they are pretty simple to care for, and they're relatively really inexpensive. The most expensive part is going to be the cage. Let's go ahead and do some other animals that maybe not just necessarily lizards. Let's do some other animals. Another very great pet to get, guys, is like my little friend here. He's in the middle of the shed. But a great starter snake would be a corn snake. Again, snakes are some of the easiest reptiles to keep if you know what you're doing. It's certain snakes, guys. I will, when I do to the no-no reptiles that I think are pretty difficult, there is a snake in there I will mention. But corn snakes are very simple. They just need a heat source. I have a light on him because I like to have the cages lit up so I can see them. But he has a light, but he doesn't need it. They just require a nice warm spot, which he does have. His cage is a little messy right now. I'm going to clean it here a little bit. He trashed it, believe it or not. It was cleaned up yesterday, but he trashed it again. That's because he's getting ready to shed. But corn snake's very simple. And nowadays, the nice part about snakes, guys, is they do offer a lot more selection as far as frozen thawed rodents, because I know a lot of people are turned off by the idea of feeding live. The vast majority of snakes will eat frozen thawed. And especially corn snakes, they're very simple to get them to eat frozen thawed. Excuse me. Very simple, guys. Very easy pet. Very awesome pet, honestly. They're pretty simple and straightforward to care for. Now, they can also be very handleable too. They are very kind-natured snakes, honestly. They get a little food excited, but if you train them as far as like feeding them in a tub or feeding them in a certain way to remember that's what means for food, then when you reach your hands in other times, they usually won't be super aggressive. Very friendly snakes as far as snakes go. Now let's actually take a look at another snake that is, of course none of them are out. We'll take a look down here. She's one of my actually friendliest, nicest snakes I have. But of course I'm going to talk about Miss Calypso. Hey baby. Ugh, she's getting big. And here soon, guys, I'll end up showing you guys, I'm going to be building a giant, basically, snake hotel. But another simple pet to care for, guys, ball pythons. Again, like most snakes, they just need a nice warm spot. Ball pythons, though, they do get a little bit bigger. Females will get to about 6 foot long. So keep that in mind. They do get a little bit bigger, although I've seen people very successfully keep these in snake racks, so basically plastic tubs with a heat source. So, you know, another nice thing about them is they stay pretty decently sized, and you know, they don't get super giant. Snakes are also very simple in the fact that, like, right now when they're young, I feed them once a week, and they get a decent sized mouse. When they're a lot larger and a lot bigger, they actually will probably get fed less. Snakes don't need a lot of food. So, she's got to come out. You got to come out and say hello. Nope, I'm going to hide. But ball pythons are very simple to care for, guys, and they can be very rewarding, nice pets. As you can see, she's very pretty, too. Very sweet snake, actually. She's never struck at me, never bit me. Although I say that, watch, this be the first time she ever bites me is when I'm on camera. Excuse me, guys, I got a tickle in my throat today. The ball pythons, guys, very awesome pet. They're very sweet, very mellow, very chill. They do need humidity, though, so make sure you give them a nice humid environment. And keep in mind, guys, when I'm talking about care and relative ease of care and everything today, I'm talking about the do's and don'ts as far as, like, my opinion of great reptiles that are easy to care for. They're very handleable and just easy to maintain and set up. Not, pardon my phone, not going into detail about, you know, vet bills and stuff like that, because believe it or not, all reptiles are expensive when it comes to vets. So don't take that into consideration. Moving on. We'll do a tortoise now. Now, you can probably see one in the corner back there. These tortoises are redfoots, and they are great tortoises to kind of start off with to an extent, because they don't get super big. I love how I'm talking about tortoises, and none of them want to come out, except for that one in his little cave. They're very easy to care for. The other nice thing about tortoises, unlike a lot of the lizards and the snakes we showed, is they eat veggies. Which I need to clean these up here in a little bit. But they eat vegetables, so you don't have to worry about bugs or mice. The thing is, though, with redfoots, they do need humidity. They do need a nice hot spot. They do require a lot of specialty bulbs as far as the UVB if you got to keep them inside. We'll cover in a future video here soon. I'm actually building an outdoor enclosure for my tortoises for the summer. So that's something you can keep in mind. You can get yourself or build yourself so they can get that natural sunlight. But honestly, redfoots, Hermann's tortoises, Russian tortoises, Greek tortoises, they're all really great starter tortoises because they stay decently sized. They don't get ginormous. They don't require a ton of specialty care. Honestly, once you get them set up, you can technically just let them be and watch them, and they're perfectly happy and healthy and fine, as long as you keep up with maintenance, cleaning, and food. Alright, so the last one we're going to go over for as far as easy pets goes is going to be a frog. And it's going to be a Pac-Man frog. Now, this Pac-Man frog ripped me apart yesterday. So, these guys like the redfoots can be very friendly. This guy, as far as ease of care goes, easy peasy. I mean, like, this guy is really decently priced. He's cheap. The cage setup is cheap. I mean, like, the only drawback about a Pac-Man frog is they're not necessarily a very handleable frog. He actually, as you can see here, and yeah, laugh it up, guys. He ripped into my pinky yesterday, and they bite really hard, and it really hurts. But Pac-Man frogs, I mean, they're really cheap, guys. You can get them next to nothing. Their cages can be very simple because the nice thing about Pac-Man frogs is they don't move around very much. Once they find a spot to bury themselves in, as you see here, they generally will stay in that general area their entire life. They do not move around a whole lot. So they don't need a giant cage to live in. You can literally get them like a 20-gallon or a little bit bigger, and they'd be perfectly fine. Now, when he moves into the reptile house, he'll get a bigger cage because I want a nice naturalistic setup and everything with plants and everything, so he's got to get a bigger house. But they're very simple to care for, guys. Very easy. Very fun to care for. Very entertaining. They come in a lot of colors. Lots of colors. He is a strawberry Pac-Man frog, so he's like an albino mixed with some green. Whereas like there's anywhere from mutants, albinos, normals, pixie, you name it. There are all kinds of different Pac-Man frogs. So very simple, very cheap, just maybe not the most handleable reptile. Alright, so now we're going to get into some of the reptiles that, in my opinion, maybe aren't the best reptiles to care for. Now, starting off with one, I don't own it no more. I had it for about a week. It started doing really bad, so I gave it to a friend who raises them and cares for them. So I don't have them no more to show you guys, but one of the biggest snakes that I would say is definitely not for beginners is green tree pythons. I did have one for a little bit. I don't even know if I put it on a video because I had him for that short amount of time, and he just, where I got him from and then what he's doing, he wasn't doing too great. The great news, though, is now that I gave him to my friend who raises them, he's doing great. He's eating. He just looks wonderful. He just wasn't thriving. Green tree pythons, first off, super expensive. They are expensive to buy. Beautiful snakes, absolutely gorgeous. They don't like being touched. They will bite the crap out of you. They hurt when they bite. They have some very long, nasty teeth. They require heavy humidity, lots of humid, and hot. So in my opinion, green tree pythons are definitely on the scale of reptiles. That being said, I love green tree python, guys. Do not think, and in fact, in the future, my friend is talking about breeding his. I'm actually going to try to get one of the babies, because that way I know for 100% it's captive bred, and it's coming directly from a friend. I love them, but they are definitely not for beginner reptile keepers. They are super hard to keep. Another reptile I don't recommend. Not that it's expensive, not that it's hard to care for, but it is a giant day gecko. Lots of people get these thinking that they can treat them like leopard geckos or a bearded dragon and they can handle them and touch them and everything. These guys don't like being touched. They're a lot like the fish of the reptile world. They're fun to set up, beautiful to watch, not really great on touching. This guy will, as you can see, he will bite the crap out of you if you get near him. If I open that door, I put my finger in there, he will bite the tar out of me. So definitely not on my scale of one of the best pets to keep as far as like friendliness. But, you know, as far as everything else goes, check marks on that for him. Now, I do have a pair of these. They are going out in the summer, outside this summer. And when the reptile house gets built, guys, they're getting a huge house. Huge. But another one I don't recommend for beginners would be Sulcatas. They look super cute right now. And they are super friendly. But what people don't realize is these little guys, they start out about yay big, by the way. They start out like the size of a ping pong ball almost. And these guys are 3 years old and they're this big. These are technically the third largest tortoise on the planet. Technically the largest continental tortoise on the planet because the two largest tortoises, the Galapagos and the Aldapra, are island tortoises. So these are technically the largest continental tortoise on the planet. A big male will get hundreds of pounds, and they get very big. So, that being said, don't recommend them if you do not have the space. Luckily, I have almost 3 acres of land, and they are getting like half an acre to themselves to roam during the summer, and then during the winter, they are getting an indoor pen that's going to be huge. So, I mean, these guys, I'm going to have plenty of space for these guys. Do not recommend for a beginner if you do not have the space. If you have the space, though, these guys are amazing tortoises. They are very friendly. They're very caring. Like I said, the worst part is they get massive. And they're, I mean, as far as tortoises go, they're not expensive. I say that. You know, usually you're only paying about $100 for a Sulcata baby. I paid about $100 for these, for each one of these. So about $200 total for my 2 Sulcatas, which is, when you think about it in the grand scheme of reptiles, not bad. It's actually very good. Decently priced. But, that being said, they get absolutely huge. They eat a lot, too. Doggone it, guys. Okay. Who should we go on to next? Who is another? I mean, I don't have a lot of don't reptiles. She's not out, but here's another one in here for now until I finish building her big enclosure here in the corner, which I'm working on. Sophia, the red-tail boa. Now, these guys probably get a lot of bad press due to, escapees, and I don't know. I don't think there's a huge growing population of them invasive anywhere. But the fact is, they do become a large constrictor. I love how I'm talking about her. She's sleeping right now, and I don't want to mess with her, guys, because I did just feed her, so I just want to leave her alone. But Sophia is a red-tail boa. She is a female, so she's going to get massive. I say massive. In the grand scheme of boas, she does not get as big as, like, say, a Burmese, a reticulated, none of those. She gets, but, a female red-tail, especially her genetic line, I guess is what you call it, she's going to get max out about 10 foot long. So she's going to get she's going to get a lot bigger than most just general households want as far as a snake goes. So, and when I say the don'ts, guys, these aren't beginner reptile, blah, blah, blah. What I'm really primarily stressing is do your research, find out if you have the space for like a small snake or a small lizard, cool, get it. Don't get a giant lizard or snake that starts off small and then expect it to stay small. They never will. But yeah, no, guys, she's going to get very large. Right now she's eating mice. When she gets larger, she's going to have to eat rats, big rats. And that price can add up. So, again, keep stuff like that in mind. Not to mention also, they aren't super cheap, a couple $100. And on top of that, red-tailed boas are increasingly hard to actually find in pet stores. I actually was lucky and found her in one of my local pet stores that I trust, that actually was really, really nice, and she was in beautiful shape and everything, so I trusted them enough to buy her. But they're getting increasingly hard to find just because less pet stores are keeping them in the store because they're afraid of them becoming the next Burmese python, basically. But, other than that, guys, they can be great handleable snakes if you work with them. If you don't, they can be very dangerous. Because, like I said, she can get 10 foot long. A male can still get at least 6 foot long. They get very big. So keep that in mind. Another one we're going to talk about as far as reptiles, I do love him, is my Savannah Monitor. Monitor lizards I put in this section because while they can be amazing pets, guys, I love my Savannah Monitor, and eventually I want to get a couple more monitors because they are amazing. They're intelligent, they are fun to watch. There's a bunch of drawbacks to them though, guys. They can be expensive. I mean, just the Savannah Monitor, you're looking at least $100, depending on where you buy it from. Especially nowadays with the prices of everything going up. They can get expensive. 2, they require a lot of space. He's still young right now, so he's in a smaller tank. I'm actually building him a huge tank that's similar in size to that to keep him until the reptile house is done. And then he's going to get an 8 foot by 6 foot room in the reptile house to himself. So they require a lot of space. Their food can be expensive because, he eats primarily bugs, worms, and stuff right now. Those are his favorites. But as he's getting bigger, he likes chicken, he likes eggs, he likes rodents occasionally. But their food gets bigger, it gets more pricey, it gets just all around more expensive. 3, he requires hot. Savannah monitors are from the lower part around the Senegal in northern Africa. They're actually located in the similar area to the Sulcata tortoise. They require it hot. It is basically the start of the desert where they live. So he requires it very hot. The light bulbs, super expensive. And of course, you need the UVB. So monitors can be very pricey as far as their setup goes, their heat and their lights. Unless, you're in Florida and you're keeping them outdoors, then it could be a little bit cheaper. But, I'm not that far south. He will get an outdoor enclosure, but unfortunately it gets too cold in the winter to keep him out all year round. So he's going to get a large indoor enclosure. But the thing is, they get pricey. And lastly, on monitors, they bite. And like, if you get one that's just totally unfriendly, I mean, I've been working with this guy to the point where he doesn't try to actively bite me anymore. When he was younger, he did. He always tried to bite me. Monitors have teeth designed to tear and grab. So they have very sharp, serrated teeth. It hurts, and they can do quite a bit of damage. So I don't recommend them to people who are getting a pet reptile that they want, say, small children or to hold and love on. I don't recommend that. Unless you work with that animal for years and at that point you feel comfortable. Starting off, though, I don't recommend getting them. The last reptile I'm going to talk about as far as don't, I unfortunately don't have him no more. I babysat him for a year, and then he left. I'm going to focus on some of the... Oh, look, the reptiles came out. I'm going to focus on them while I talk about them. Another reptile I don't highly recommend are chameleons. Just because... chameleons checkbox... It's kind of like the green tree python. They checkbox all the marks negatively. They're expensive, and I really mean expensive. A cheap chameleon is running $80 to $100, and that's just a basic chameleon. Not into any of your fancies or any of that. Then it just skyrockets from there. They're super expensive, guys, and that's just the lizard. They require special habitats, special humidifiers, special lights. It can add up to hundreds of dollars very quickly for a chameleon. I did have one for a little while. I babysat him for a year, and then he went back to my friend. And unfortunately, it was just before I started the channel, so I didn't. Maybe I'll include some pictures of him later on. But he was funny, but he definitely I would not recommend. Not only expensive, they're not friendly. Most chameleons do not like being touched. They don't like being held. They don't like being messed with. They just want to be left alone. It's kind of like the giant day geckos. They're fish of the reptile world. It's amazing to set them up. If you set them up in a bioactive setup, it is truly an astonishing sight to see a full bioactive setup with a chameleon in it. Absolutely beautiful. They don't like being touched, guys. Don't buy one thinking that you're going to be able to handle it and carry it around like you do a bearded dragon. This, as my wife and my kids like to watch, this isn't Rapunzel, guys. We don't all have Pastel the chameleon. But seriously, chameleons, they don't like being touched. They will bite you. Not as damaging as a monitor per se, but it does hurt. Another aspect of them is, like, they are very picky when it comes to food. Very picky. I've had some that love crickets, but not roaches. I've seen some, or when I worked at the pet store, I've had some that eat everything. Some that only eat worms, some that only eat roaches, some that only eat crickets, some of them will only eat hornworms. They are incredibly picky reptiles. And they require high humidity. They're just all around, honestly, one of the least recommended reptiles I can say I recommend whatsoever. I just don't think they make great starter pets. And yes, it's another reptile I actually would like to get back into, because once I got him set up, he was doing great, and he was thriving, he was happy, he was cool. I love chameleons, just like I love green tree pythons, some of my favorite reptiles. But, to someone just starting out with reptiles, I don't recommend them. I really don't, guys. Well, that is probably all I'm going to rant for you guys today, so I hope you bared with me. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a like and a thumbs up and a subscribe. We are going to try to continue content. Likes the butt scratches. Believe it or not, they can feel through their shell. But please drop a thumbs up, a subscribe. Let's keep this channel going. Sorry, it's been a little while since my last video. Spring break was just last week for my kiddos, so I was spending the spring break with my kids and my animals. I didn't have time to record. But yeah, no, guys, please keep coming with me and we'll keep going on some of these adventures. If you have ideas or something you'd like to see as far as a video goes, drop it in the comments. As always, thank you guys for watching and thanks for joining us. You guys have a great day, a great life. Have a good one.